We have a lot to talk about. I want to get something out the gate right away. Yes, I understand. Maybe I am not the biggest Justin Fields fan. Maybe a lot of y'all hate me for that. And I completely understand why, right? Justin Fields is a player that has a cult following to the point where I don't know if I've ever seen it before. People love, and I repeat, love Justin Fields. I've actually talked about this at length. My guess on why they love him so much, my guess on why, people are just obsessed with Justin Fields. I think it has something to do with him playing at Ohio State. I think it has something to do with him going to be a Chicago Bear. People love the Bears. People love the Buckeyes, and they are passionate fan bases. But it does seem that, even a lot of people that aren't Bears fans are absolutely in love with Justin Fields. And we had the sense this offseason that that wasn't the case for really any team around the NFL. It didn't matter if it was the Atlanta Falcons wanting to go out there and give Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed. It didn't matter if it was the Las Vegas Raiders that decided, yeah, it probably makes a lot of sense for us to just go through and sign Gardner Minshew. Slowly but surely, the potential landing spots for Justin Fields were going away. And I didn't even know if it was a potential landing spot or not for him to be a Pittsburgh Steeler once they brought in Russell Wilson. But it's official. Now he is there. Let's go ahead. Let's pull up this screenshot. And the main thing that I want to be focusing in on with this comp package and what the Bears just got for Justin Fields is I want to look at the picks that were traded. Okay. Because that tells us so much we need to know about the expectation and the baseline of what we are looking at here. Justin Fields was traded for a 2025 sixth round NFL draft pick. A sixth round NFL draft pick is one step ahead of, and it's barely a step ahead of, just going through and cutting someone. It's something that makes me want to say Russell Wilson's the starting quarterback initially for this team. I think it's going to be a full-blown QB competition here. Justin Fields has the upside where he could potentially be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That sixth round pick may get bumped up to a fourth round pick, dependent on how Justin Fields performs at Pittsburgh and dependent if he does become the starting quarterback there. I think it's a phenomenal move from the Steelers' perspective in that you don't necessarily have any risk that you're taking on, right? You go out there, you trade a sixth rounder for Justin Fields. The baseline expectation is this guy's bad. This guy's most likely never going to do anything for our organization. But at the same time, you have all the upside in the world where if Russell Wilson turns out to be complete cheeks, you're paying $1 million for Russ. You're paying a sixth round, worst case scenario, a fourth round pick for Justin Fields. All of a sudden you move on from Kenny Pickett. You bring in two quarterbacks that are most likely bad, but still have upside. And you don't need both of them to be good. You really only need one guy. So that's going to be the main thing that I want to point out here. Even though I am not a Justin Fields fan, even though I don't know, I thought it was crazy when people were saying that they were going to get a second rounder for him. I still think that this is a great move when it comes to what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. And Chicago didn't really have any other options, right? You have a fan base that is so in love with Justin Fields that you draft Caleb Williams #1 overall, which we've known they were going to do all offseason. We said this right away when you saw Las Vegas sportsbooks put Chicago at like minus 9,000 to go through and draft Caleb Williams. It's been a guarantee all offseason that Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear with the #1 overall pick. So you have a fan base that is absolutely in love with Justin Fields, that the second that Caleb Williams does anything wrong, the second that Caleb Williams struggles as a rookie quarterback, you're going to be hearing rumblings in the background. You don't really want Justin Fields on your roster. Does Fields have anything that he can teach Caleb? No, I would say not necessarily, right? I mean, ultimately, Justin Fields in his time in Chicago, whether you want to blame it on the situation and say, well, Mason, it was the coaching staff. Well, Mason, it was the lack of weapons that he had. Well, Mason, it was the offensive line. I'll give it to you. Justin Fields was put in a very bad situation in Chicago, very similar to how we see other rookie quarterbacks get put into horrible situations, particularly that those guys that go with the number 1 overall pick, such as Bryce Young, such as Trevor Lawrence. I mean, maybe you throw in CJ Stroud going at 2 overall. Justin Fields didn't go in the top 3. He went to a team that had a mid-round 1 NFL draft pick. But nonetheless, he goes to Chicago. Through 3 years, he wins 10 games. He wins 10 games as a starting quarterback. Now, obviously, starting quarterback wins does not necessarily equal quarterback evaluation, quarterback talent. You can't say this quarterback won this many games, this quarterback won this many games in 2 completely different situations, so quarterback 1's better than quarterback 2. You can't do it, but it is a starting point to understand that he played in 38 games and won 10 of them. You go to what we've had every year as a passer. Year 1, 155 passing yards per game. Year 2, 149 passing yards per game. In 2022, when the Chicago Bears are in the number 1 overall pick, they had the worst passing offense that the NFL has seen over the past decade. Now, Justin Fields, from a fantasy football perspective, was phenomenal based off his rushing upside and his rushing upside alone. This past year, you have DJ Moore. Justin Fields goes out and definitely has the best year of his career. Justin Fields in year 3, better than he was in year 1, better than he was in year 2 by a mile. A lot of that has to do with the additions that they put around him, primarily DJ Moore himself. Justin Fields in that season almost gets to 200 passing yards per game, up at 197. He goes from 5.8 adjusted yards per pass attempt as a rookie, which is very, very bad, near the bottom of the league, to 6.6, which is very, very bad, near the bottom of the league, but a lot better. And then this past year, 6.7, which is the best that he has seen over the past 3 seasons. So Justin Fields has increasingly gotten better through his NFL career. But if you take a step back and remove the swag factor or remove how much that people actually love this guy, he's still been a very bad NFL quarterback. Some would argue the worst quarterback in the league. Now you go over to a quarterback that I hate to bring this up, and this is just what I don't really get with Fields and why, Chicago fans are just in love with the guy. Mitchell Trubisky was undoubtedly a bad quarterback, right? I don't think anybody's going to come out here and scream that they're Mitchell Trubisky fans, that Trubisky was put in a bad situation in Chicago and that's why he failed. It may be true. I don't know. I'm not making an argument for Mitchell Trubisky here. But from a baseline, Justin Fields went 10-28 as a starter. Trubisky went 29-21. I don't think Justin Fields was much better than Trubisky in his time in Chicago. Maybe the situation was much worse. You can make that argument, and it probably was. But you go from a quarterback that has multiple winning seasons to a quarterback that has his team consistently at the bottom of the NFL. Now, of course, record should not be the number 1 factor, and it's not even close to it. It's a baseline. You look at the other numbers, you contextualize the situation that that player was in, and then you can come to your own conclusion of how that quarterback performed. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Chicago to move on from Justin Fields, to make their bet on Caleb Williams. A lot of people claiming that he is a generational talent. I think it makes so much sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go out there and say, 6th round pick, at the very worst, the 4th round pick. We get to bet on a guy that maybe just failed because of a bad situation. Maybe you put him into a better situation, he's going to find a lot of success. I love what Pittsburgh did at the quarterback position this year, because you're paying Russell Wilson $1 million. Denver's paying the rest of his salary. You're paying Chicago a 6th round pick for Justin Fields. You have 2 quarterbacks coming in that may have some upside. We don't know if they're going to turn it around. They probably won't, but they easily could. And if neither quarterback performs well, who cares? Go out there, draft a quarterback in 2025. This isn't going to stop him from doing that. I think it's a masterclass move from what the Pittsburgh Steelers did really all offseason here regarding their two quarterbacks. I think if you're looking at what we have from Chicago, it's wheels up. Caleb Williams is coming in. It's going to be a much better passing offense overall. They're going to have DJ Moore. They're going to have Keenan Allen. We've known that Caleb Williams is going to be there all offseason. So I don't really think that we have much else to talk about. I mean, we have a question coming in from Rory saying, is Fields going to get his option picked up? I would be very surprised if Justin Fields gets his option picked up. K72 says, fire Poles. He's clearly mentally. I don't think this is a bad move from the Chicago Bears. I would imagine the Chicago Bears spent all offseason trying to see what they could get for Justin Fields, right? I don't think the conversation from Ryan Poles went, hey, Atlanta, yeah, let's start the offer with a 6th-round pick. What probably happened is he probably got on the phone. He probably called the Raiders and went, yeah, y'all know we have the number 1 overall pick. We love Justin. He's a great quarterback. He'd be great for your team. I mean, I wish that we could keep the guy, but we have to take Caleb at number 1. We just love Caleb so much more. I bet you he had that conversation with the Raiders. Had that conversation with Atlanta, probably had that conversation with Pittsburgh months ago, well before they went out there and got Russell Wilson. And what this tells us is not that Ryan Poles is incompetent. He can't get, the adequate price for Justin Fields. It told us that no NFL team was interested, that there was no market for him, and that ultimately you just had to go through and settle for what you second that he does anything that a rookie quarterback would do. So I think the Bears probably got all they could. Obviously, it's not as much as Chicago Bears fans were wanting. I think it makes a lot of sense as well for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go chase the upside at an incredibly low price. But in terms of Dynasty, I'm going to have to move Justin Fields down our rankings. There's no other way you can get around that. He's not a guaranteed start. What my previous take was earlier in the offseason is Justin Fields is going to get a starting job in 2024, and then if he performed poorly, he was out of the league. That's what I thought. But and now it's not even a guarantee that he has a starting job in 2024. I still think he has upside. He could come out, win the starting job, and he could be very good. And in fantasy, obviously, with the rushing upside, he'd be phenomenal. So if you're playing in like an underdog best ball league and you want to go chase the ceiling for a quarterback that has a lot of rushing upside, that maybe it is possible Chicago just ruined him and he steps into a better situation and he finds success. I think it's probably unlikely, but it's definitely a possibility. If you want to pull Pittsburgh Steelers and go out there and take that guy at an extremely cheap price tag, I think it makes a lot of sense. Am I going to go out there? Am I going to take him in the first 5 rounds of a Dynasty startup draft? Hell no. Obviously not in a 1 quarterback format, not even in a super flex league. So I don't know if I'm looking at Justin Fields from a Dynasty perspective. I'm probably going to be valuing him as a high-end quarterback 3. I would probably still rather have him. I definitely would rather have him over the quarterbacks that have guaranteed starting jobs this year, but have an extremely capped ceiling. Like if you're telling me, Mason, would you rather have Justin Fields or Gardner Minshew? Would you rather have Justin Fields or Derek Carr? Would you rather have Justin Fields or Sam Darnold? Give me Justin Fields over all those guys in fantasy because, I understand that Derek Carr, no matter what happens, even if he is a starting quarterback over the next few seasons, he's not going to be good in fantasy football because he's not going to run the ball. And we obviously know he's not an elite level NFL quarterback by any means. So I think both quarterbacks in that scenario would have very low floors. But we see in the case of someone like Derek Carr, who doesn't have any rushing upside, he simply just has no ceiling, where Justin Fields does have an extremely high ceiling from a fantasy football perspective, given his rushing upside. So I will update my rankings on flogfantasy.com. Probably, maybe I can do it tonight. I got free time tonight. I think we need to move up Joe Mixon with him signing the extension. I think we need to move down Justin Fields now that we see what the NFL is valuing him as, the fact that he doesn't have a guaranteed starting job this year, but he's going to be ahead of like the Derek Carr range of quarterbacks that also have a very low floor, but don't have the ceiling that can match someone like Justin Fields. But I think that should be it for this live stream. I will be live tomorrow breaking down some teams, which I am excited about. But yeah, I think that'll be it. I'll go ahead and hop on the site real quick, update our rankings. Appreciate you. If you haven't noticed already, hit that like button. Subscribe if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And yeah, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I think you should probably be pretty happy.